Hi, and welcome to a very special edition of Trader Talk TV, part of the Road to ATS London series. Today I'm joined by our CEO, Kieran O'Kane, who's going to tell us a little bit about what he gets up to outside of ExchangeWire.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's an honour here to be on Trader Talk TV. So today I want to talk about is some of the projects I work on outside of ExchangeWire. Helps to kind of get it deep in the weeds and understand how technology works. And one of the things I've been working on is a sort of publisher project called WatchMarvel.com. WatchMarvel.com effectively is a high-end review site for watches. It was part of a project to kind of see if I could scale a sort of premium publishing business. So the idea was, I can map it out on the board. I've never done this before, it's great. So the idea was to sort of hire a bunch of really good review journalists to talk about watches. They have deep knowledge of the industry and of the products themselves. And we built effectively a site with reviews and sort of specs about the watches themselves, and obviously built an ad units around it. So we were looking at premium ads to sort of serve on the site. The idea behind this was to sort of do a number of these sites. So Watch Marvel was the first of many. I was going to look at Whiskey Marvel and Yacht Marvel, etc., etc. And the idea was to get premium advertising on the site, because obviously to scale you need to have, or to make money sort of in display you need to have serious scale. But there's still a lot of money in direct sales. So the idea was to sort of build that portfolio of sites out. We had a number of high-end ad networks that we were working with that we yielded like big sort of CPMs, £8 CPMs on sort of push downs and rich media advertising. So we were making money off that, but we did run into problems.
What kind of problems?
Well, the problem was scaling it. Audience. Google and Facebook make it very difficult to kind of scale a publishing business now. Google with SEO have cracked down on sort of being able to sort of use Google to push traffic towards their particular sites. And because our site was...
What kind of traffic numbers were you getting through Google?
Very low. I mean, we were SEOing the site up. We were doing the things that Google, what you would expect to do to get SEO traffic from Google, but it wasn't working because I guess maybe Google didn't see as authentic content, but I think the reality is Google operates the Google Shopping comparison site, etc. So maybe that was the case. I can't tell for sure. But we were getting no joy with Google. Even though you had original, unique content on the site. Yeah. I have no idea why. It just didn't work out for us. And the same was with Facebook. We acquired fans. We built up our fan base, but the posts themselves weren't hitting the fan base. We weren't seeing an awful lot of traffic come back off Facebook. And maybe that's a case of Facebook tightening the sort of traffic they're pushing towards sites to get people buying more advertising on Facebook. But those two were the main sort of gatekeepers for traffic on the internet for small publishing. So we thought about the idea of actually buying in traffic. Now this is quite an interesting idea. So we went out to the likes of Taboola and Outbrain, and they were sort of pushing traffic into us. So what we do for them is we would build sort of bespoke slideshows, like the 10 most popular watches at Wimbledon, when we get like various stars wearing those watches, and it was pushing a lot of traffic from these. The problem was a lot of it was mobile traffic, and as we all know, mobile yield is pretty poor, and a lot of these rich media units were desktop only. So we looked further afield, and I came up with an idea actually to think about using the DSPs to buy traffic on a click basis. So obviously you can buy on some of the DSPs clicks and then sort of back them into a CPA goal or KPI like that. So my thinking was, why could we connect sort of the revenue per page that we were getting? So the revenue, like, so £3 CPM or £4 CPM, so like, revenue per page there is about £15. So like each user would sort of go in, impression generated, or generate an impression, and we would make money off it. So I kept thinking to myself, is there a way to take this information from DFP and feed it into a bidder, and the bidder would buy a click, basically from various traffic sources like eBay, etc., on the exchanges. But the problem is there is no connection between DFP and this here. We couldn't make it work. What I wanted was like real-time optimization. So I could, this actual user is generating this amount of clicks and impressions. Therefore, I should be buying more of these clicks. Obviously, there'll be people saying, "Well, you're buying cheap traffic. Are you not worried about fraud? How do you sort of legislate for that?" Well, I mean, a lot of these ad networks have filters for bot traffic and fraud now. So I was deliberately, they actually checked that, so I didn't get involved or buy any of that traffic at all. So you kind of know, rule of thumb, if you're buying anything less than 5 cents, it's generally bot. So, but the problem is we couldn't get it to scale. This worked. This model worked. We were actually seeing real revenue coming in here, and we were actually making good yield. So our yield arbitrage was working.
And your traffic volumes
are
higher.
Traffic volumes are higher. So like we were buying traffic in, and we were making good money off the back of it. But the problem again was the scale. Like we were making probably maybe 20-30% revenue, but it was small numbers because you need about 20 or 30 of these sites to make work.
And would you say this is a problem that every single publisher is having, no matter how big they are? They always want to grow, and they're always going to have this problem, how to scale and not be able to do it through Google and Facebook and have to turn to models like this. I think
the big problem for new publishers coming into the market is this very problem. Like, these two companies, these two media giants are the gateway for most of the traffic on the internet. Like, I mean, we look at ourselves, as a B2B business, LinkedIn gives us a lot of traffic, but if you're a consumer brand, Facebook and Google are the two means to get traffic. So, do I suggest that publishers do this? It's hard to know. Like, I mean, what would an advertiser's reaction be if you're buying traffic in? I would say, well, it's the same as actually SEO and Facebook. What do the advertisers say to the likes of BuzzFeed, who 80% of their traffic comes through Facebook? It's not organic traffic, effectively. I mean, it's organic traffic from Facebook, but it's not. They're not coming to BuzzFeed's site from themselves. They're going via Facebook. So I don't see anything wrong with this. The model did work. It's just I couldn't get the sell side to work with the buy side. I think there's a real opportunity to sort of to optimize clicks to revenue per page, and I think if someone could make that work, I think it'd be a really interesting business. But the key is the environment, the context. The sites need to have quality, right? And we had good writers, and I think like if anybody's out there thinking about this idea, well, this was Watch Marvel. I was thinking we could do whiskey, anything sort of high end, big CPMs. Possibly to do some interesting stuff with direct advertisers. I think there's a huge opportunity.
And do you think there's an opportunity outside of display advertising to other ad formats?
You mean like mobile and video? Native advertising could be quite interesting because the CPMs are quite high for native, and you could buy a native campaign in, and it could be like £1 million if it was big enough, and bring the traffic in there. I think that's legitimate. I think people are doing that already, so it's like I think there's a huge opportunity around that, and advertisers are looking for audience. So if you're bringing audience in, the right audience, then I don't see any reason why this couldn't work.
And I guess it's all about understanding your audience as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess when you push the people through the door, it's been able to sort of keep them coming back. So get them subscribing to newsletters, segment them in the right way to retarget them outside the Marvel family, effectively. But it's sort of understanding that audience and being able to deliver that audience to advertisers. And I think there's a massive opportunity here. Just the pieces just weren't working. But this gave me a good opportunity to understand how all this fits together and the limitations, particularly around DFP. DFP's got real problems because if you look at DFP as an ad server, it has you set up as line items. All these are line items in my ad server, and the only way I could compete with bring in third party to compete with these line items was through AdX, DFP. DFP doesn't allow any third parties. Like what I wanted to do really was open up all my impressions to sort of all the demand in the market and increase my yield that way. But
and move outside of the walled garden.
Yeah, so DFP is limited as to what I can do in terms of that. So that gave me a proper understanding, and that's going to be an interesting one, I think, going forward as well. So the project's been interesting. It's kind of given me an insight into these things, and give me a sort of a understanding of this new model, the yield arbitrage model. So I think if someone wants to pick it up and make a go of it, they're welcome to.
Cool. Thank you very much, Kieran. See you next time on Trader Talk TV.
I look forward to seeing it in London as well. ATS London on September 14th.